For many years, the English Federation of Disability Sport has been helping a variety of organisations to engage more disabled people. We want to increase the number of opportunities for disabled people to be active for life. Do you want to engage more disabled people? You might be missing out on many people within your communications. Many of these people will be disabled people, but the term disability is a broad definition. It captures a number of impairments and health conditions. It could include everyone from wheelchair users to older people to people living with dyslexia or who are colourblind. But not everyone identifies with the term and might not consider themselves a disabled person. So taking an inclusive and accessible approach to your communications means you can reach more people, not just disabled people, within sport and activity. Here are a few ways you can produce inclusive communications. Language. Inclusive communication is important, and the wrong kind of language can create a barrier. It's important to use language that is inclusive, not offensive. Otherwise, a person may avoid opportunities, offers, and services completely. In communications, a disabled individual's preference is vital, but in mass communications, it is hard to work on an individual basis. Therefore, avoid any language that might make someone feel helpless, dependent, or pitied. Instead of using phrases such as the disabled or handicapped, use disabled people. Instead of using wheelchair-bound, use wheelchair user. Tone counts too. Here's an example of a positive way to say something. In our sports club, disabled and non-disabled people are actively encouraged to join in. It's important to use language that includes everybody rather than segregating somebody. Accessibility. Since one size never fits all, how do we make our communications inclusive to everyone? Before you plan your next activity, think about the disabled people in your audience. Who might be missing out, and how can you include them in your communications? By getting to know the types of barriers disabled people experience, you can see what you may need to do to remove these barriers. Print publications. If you use a lot of posters or flyers, it's good to look at the design to see how you can make it more accessible. Not everyone will be able to read your posters, but by looking at text size, friendly fonts, colour contrast, and its layout, your posters can become more visible and more accessible. Accessible PDFs. PDFs are a popular format, but they can be inaccessible to some disabled people if the PDF isn't created properly. To make a PDF more accessible, make sure that you have a clear reading order that's easy to follow. Images that have information in them should have a text alternative. You should have a list of contents and use clear, easy-to-understand language. Videos are a great tool for communication, and there are some easy ways to make them more accessible. Include subtitles or British Sign Language interpretation for those who may be deaf or hard of hearing, audio description for people with visual impairments, and you could also provide an audio transcript of all the important information in your video. Websites. The internet is the most popular way for most people, disabled and non-disabled, to find out information about their interests and hobbies. But many websites are inaccessible to some disabled people. To increase accessibility, think about including the ability to change the colour contrast, using responsive text sizes, providing alternative text on images, and no flashing images. Don't have videos play automatically, and have accessible links that make sense on their own. Social media is a great way to inform a lot of people about your organisation. To make your social media presence more accessible, make sure you use clear language, links that are easy to understand and follow, and your images are explained in the body of the post. But remember, not everyone is on or can use social media, so best not just to rely on those channels. Plain English and easy read. The national average reading age is 9. How often do you read complicated articles full of jargon and long sentences? More people could understand what we're saying in sport and physical activity by using plain English, less jargon, and getting straight to the point. Easy read is sometimes used to give quick visual indicators and short descriptions. When preparing your campaign and promotion displays, remember to consider how different people might interact with it. Think about placement and location. Are posters too high to read? How accessible is it for wheelchair users or maybe those with dwarfism or restricted growth conditions? How accessible is the signing up process for your event? Is your online form accessible for people to fill out? Do you only consider allowing people to sign up via phone? Make sure your procedures and information is positive, accessible, and easy to read. If you are worried that your organisation isn't being as inclusive or accessible as it could be, then you can use specific companies that specialise in these areas and have the expertise to deal with it. Some suggestions are available in the Inclusive Communications Guide. Here are a few points to remember. Always consider who your audience is and how different groups need to access your information. Include accessibility as an essential requirement for each project. Allow time and budget for producing alternative formats. Use clear English and design your campaign to be as readable as possible. Do not assume that your designers or developers understand what accessibility or inclusive design is. Make sure that you have everything tested by different groups for usability and accessibility. Being more accessible and inclusive doesn't mean that you have to compromise on good design, but it does mean that you'll reach the widest audience possible, and that everyone who is interested has the opportunity to be involved. For more information, you can download the English Federation of Disability Sport's Full Inclusive Communications Guide from www.efds.co.uk.